Sorry everyone for the technical glitch there. But so again, we have Jef Montes with us, and Jeff's going to tell us a little bit about his project, um, Marinero, and is going to show us his final video presentation. So Jeff, I'm gonna pass the word over to you, and I'll be on the lookout if we have any technical problems.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Um, nice to have this opportunity to show my presentation. Can everybody hear me clear right now? Can you hear me well, David?
Yes, I can hear you fine. I turned up my computer volume a little bit.
Okay. So I will start to share my screen. I think my computer audio is better than my microphone. So what I will do today is I will share an introduction. It's a 5-minute video. And afterwards, I will show a 15-minute video that is more in-depth about the project partners. So we will start now with a 5-minute video.
Great, Jeff, sounds much better now.
Great. I'm speaking a little bit louder.
Okay, that helps too. Yeah, it came
Yeah.
out, it started to get much clearer, I think, maybe once you started speaking a little bit louder. So I think we're good.
Okay, fine. So now we will start the 5-minute video.
The idea of creating my own materials was born during fabric and yarn exposition visits. I was initially looking to find and buy new materials for my project. I realized that the image that I was having in my mind does not yet exist. So I decided to think outside of the box and challenged myself to create my own materials. This allowed me to have a more clear understanding about production systems within the fashion industry. My love for research was born by constantly asking myself how this garment is made and what materials are used. My background is in fashion design, so in my case I went from the outside of the industry and finding my way towards the inside. This is the place for me to research how I can create new fashion aesthetics based on experience, interdisciplinary collaborations, and how to convert all this new integrated information into my Re-FREAM project. I think that the essence of my collaborations have been about bringing an image to life that I had in mind. As a fashion designer, I know how I want to create a certain movement around the body. A technician, for example, of textiles or yarns can explain and show to me how all these production steps work. But when these different worlds come together, you kind of break your own framework. And this is where innovation starts for me. It's a nice experience, because at first maybe your partners don't understand what you're trying to reach, but when several elements come together and you see that it's working, a new frame of reference is created. When I reflect on Re-FREAM, the first thing that comes to my mind is being open and adaptive. The concept of my project is tailored by weather, meaning that the designs are created by meteorological conditions. This design by nature thought process requires creating new yarns and smart materials. During Project Re-FREAM, I was able to finish my co-creation process and filament production in 2019. When COVID-19 happened, the entire world needed to adapt towards a new lifestyle. In my case, I decided to develop all my final project steps locally. This eventually has worked out in the best possible way. Sometimes emotional situations can lead to new ideas and even better outcomes. The current stage of my project is to finish the artistic process of the rain installations. After that, I will focus on my new project called Adaptive Archi-Filament. My goal is to develop this filament into a commercial product. It was, for example, already an interesting experience for me working at Textile Lab, creating the Marinero fabrics with these new yarns. I learned that other textile designers are interested in buying the Archi-Filament for their future projects. It's nice to already hear these positive feedbacks around me. So going from lab scale towards commercial scale would be an interesting step for me as an entrepreneur. Innovating and change have always been an essential part of the fashion industry. But new positive change can again cause unexpected other chain reactions in other fields. Maybe the size of how we produce on a global scale just needs to be brought back to less supply offered and more slow fashion. Also using new and sustainable materials that could be implemented into industrial production machines could be an interesting solution, because current machines are created in order to fit specific materials that are sustainable in some ways, but environmentally damaging in other ways. It's complex because there is not only one solution. My thought is that emerging technologies should mainly contribute to worldwide slow fashion in the future.
So this was my introduction. Now we will go on to the second video. Can you please introduce yourself? What is your position at ITEX? And what do you mainly work on?
Well, my name is Carolina, and I'm the hub manager from Hub Valencia. In this project, my work is managing all the 4 projects that we have on Re-FREAM. Especially one of these is Marinero from Jef Montes.
Hi, my name is Jaime. I'm project manager of research in ITEX, and I was working with Jef in the project of Marinero, focused in the technician parts.
The second question is, can you explain something about the collaborative process? How did you experience working on the project and creating the Adaptive Archi-Filament?
It was a nice experience because it's not usual to me to work with a designer, because we had to develop different products, and we have to think in the first step what we have to do, no? What we want to make and how we can do it. So the first step was a bit hard because we have to think about the final product and how to do that. So to me it was different, and this is because it was fun.
Yeah, it was quite a collaborative process, right? I remember when I entered ITEX to learn all the technology and all the machines that you have at ITEX and several processes from yarn and filament process. For me, this was a really interesting experience to learn the basic steps that you do as a technician at ITEX and later convert this into this information, what eventually became the Adaptive Archi-Filament. So the first question, can you please introduce yourself? What is your position at ITEX and what do you mainly work on?
So my name is Guillaume Clément. I'm a plastics engineer and I'm working as a research and development engineer at ITEX since the end of 2017.
So going on to the next question, can you explain something about the collaborative process? How did you experience working on Project Marinero?
Well, working on this project was very interesting because there were the major challenge of understanding each other in the first place. We saw that because we come from different backgrounds and different fields, we used the same vocabulary but with different definitions, which was very interesting, and so we needed several weeks already to know what we were talking about. And then, since we were working on a completely new product, which is the Archi-Filament, which has never been done before, we needed to come up with complete new ideas of making it at all. It was not about just adapting shortly existing process. It was more about creating a new process, which was very exciting.
So going on to the next question. We started wanting to 3D print the Archi-Filament. What happened during this process?
That was quite of a surprise, and of course that can happen a lot in research project, that we had different views and different expectations, or at the beginning of the project, or we understood each other at least not completely. And thanks to the work that we did at the very beginning to put everything on the table and to set clearly what we are with sketches on paper, on the computer, with 3D printing objects, to have it in the hands to be sure to manipulate the same objects, then we clarified, we made clear that it was actually not possible to 3D print it as we wanted, because it was just not, because of the process, it was not possible. And thus we had to adapt and to find new ways and to modify the product, to modify the process, and then we found a solution in the end. But different from what we expected at the beginning, for sure.
Yes, I remember you connected me to Woodk Plus, one of the partners at Johannes Kepler University. And this was the moment when we went from 3D printing to filament producing. Can you please introduce yourself? What is your position at Woodk Plus? And what do you mainly work on?
Hi, my name is Konrad Wipplinger, and I work at Caplus from 2007. And I'm for all technical parts and work with as a mainly on the extrusion technology and injection molding, also filament extrusion, 3D printing parts, and yes.
Okay, hello, my name is Jürgen Lesnommer and I'm a colleague of Konrad Wipplinger, and I work as a project manager at Woodk Plus since December 2008. And my main research fields are weathering and the development of biodegradable and bio-based composites and 3D printing filaments.
So, Jürgen, what technology and materials did you use to create the Marinero textured monofilament?
So for the production of this textured monofilament, we used a high viscosity polyamide 6 from DSM. And the chosen type was a film extrusion type, and it was recommended from this supplier for the production of 3D printing filaments. So that was the main reason why we choose it for this filament production. And the basic technology was extrusion. It's a continuous process to produce plastic products. And yeah, the special thing on this technology was that we had to use an embossing step. So my colleague Konrad installed an embossing roller combined with a pressure roller to get this textured structure.
Yes, this was really special, right? You kind of modified existing machines to rebuild some parts, to create a special kind of new technique into the samples that we created. Can you please introduce yourself? What is your position at Textile Lab, and what do you mainly work on?
Well, I'm Judith Beskens, and I work as a product developer for the technique weaving. I work here since 7 years now, and I mainly work with designers, artists, students, architects, and I transform their ideas into a woven fabric to the machines.
And I'm Damien Simerjan. I start my position as a knitting product developer at the Textile Lab in last May. And my job is a little bit like you did before, the flat bed knitting machine. So it means that I follow the project of architects, designers, students, fashion designers, to help them to finish their projects.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we can go on to the next question. Can you please explain something about the collaborative process? How did you experience working on Project Marinero?
Yes, it was a very new project for us because new yarns were created, and with new yarns there are pros and cons. Of course, it's very interesting to see the results, but also the machine needs to be able to use them. So if it's too heavy, too thick, if the machine cannot cut it, it can also break the machine. So it's very delicate. Otherwise, it was interesting because Jef had a clear idea about the dresses, but how to insert the yarns were freely. So I could play with the yarns and the structures, and with that, yeah, we could make really nice combinations.
That's great. And how did you experience this, Damien?
Well, for me, it was a really interesting experience for the technique used to end the designs. And at the same time, it was very difficult. But for me, it's a good point because it means I can learn from it. Because of the yarns we use and because the dimension of the designs. And all combined was very challenging, but at the same time, really interesting.
So the first question is, can you please introduce yourself? What is your position at Empa and what do you mainly work on?
So I am Agnes Psikuta. I work at Empa as a senior researcher since already 15 years. And my major field of expertise is to produce tools, virtual tools for simulation of human physiology, for simulation of clothing virtually on the human body and their properties and their effect on human physiology. And I'm also working with thermal mannequins and thermal devices that are used for research in textile and clothing domain.
Okay. Well, the next question, I think it's a little bit an abstract question because we are now at the end of the project, but not at the end of the research. So my question would be, what do you think about the project outcome until this point?
Okay. I think it is an interesting beginning of something to be really used and not only watched in museum or in gallery. So for the moment, it is a tool that you use to make artistic expression, but actually it has a potential to be also something very practical, useful, and even commercialized. Of course, you need quite a few steps from now till then, but well, I see quite a few applications if you were successful with improving technology or bringing technology to the more commercial form.
Okay, interesting. So can you please introduce yourself? What is your profession and what do you mainly work on?
Okay, I'm Bart Nijboer. I'm an artist from the Netherlands, and I mainly work with metal and I make moving sculptures and installations. I try to search for natural elements that are moving or dissolving or changing. And I try to capture that in my work.
Okay, great, interesting. So the next question is, the final step for our collaboration is to build all the installations. This process will take another 4 months. What are you expecting in terms of final results?
I think it will be fine because we are working on it so long and we predicted so good what could happen and how to do it in all these different locations that now we have this one location where we can do everything. That will be really really nice, and I'm really looking forward because I think we made a good project, and it will be so nice to see it come together and get a really nice result.
I agree. We have 6 categories and we have 4 installations. So we will first start to build 2 installations, and then we will see what the first 2 categories will do in terms of the deformation of the fabrics. So this will happen in September and October, and then we will go on to November and December, and we will prepare the 4 installations on the platform. And it's going to be a really exciting process because I agree with you. We can basically see the seasons change from autumn to winter, and we can get a preview each week if we want. We can come together and see how the process is working. It's really close by. So I'm really happy about this outcome so that we can keep it so close to us and manage the whole process. So these were my videos.
Amazing.
Thank you.
So exciting to see this prototype now. And now, of course, this is happening, as you were saying, right now, just yesterday even.
Yeah.
You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, for me, Project Re-FREAM was a really interesting project in terms of constantly adapting and seeing what possibilities are there. Because initially, we had the idea of putting the installations on the roofs of the partners. So this means that each partner would have 1 installation on their roof. But during the COVID-19 situation, everything changed, and we were brainstorming to find maybe 4 locations in the Netherlands. But then at some point, I went to the place where it all began, this project, and it was on the roof of my studio. And I was looking at the rooftop, and I was thinking, okay, is it possible that I could put all the 4 installations here? So I walked a little bit around, measuring the dimensions, and then it became clear that we can put all the installations on the roof. So this actually changes also the visual aspect of the final experiment, because we can put all the installations together. You will see all the installations working, but also from a documentation point of view, it's really interesting to put on each installation 1 camera, but also place another camera at the other side of the platform that capture all the 4 installations at one moment. So this was very surprising for me that it turned out that way, because in a visual aspect, it's actually, for me personally as an artist, the most strong to keep everything together and to do it this way. Of course, it's nice to have more options, but at this point, I'm very happy that it turned out that way. The side effect on the challenge of this was that we needed to make all the installations ourselves. So in my building is a very old building, and it has no elevator, and it has 4 or 5 floors. So there is a big staircase. So we actually prepared 1 week going on the stairs with all the tubes and all the materials and all the heavy metal and aluminium elements. And it was quite a workout, to be honest. And then, well, yesterday we were working from 9 in the morning till 9 in the evening. And this is what you see here on the picture. This is Bart working on one installation, and one installation to build, it's more or less 2 hours. Here you can see a little bit more defined end result, where you can see 2 installations. You can see the mannequins already hanging inside the installations. Bart is working his ass off. We actually brought pizzas to the studio because we were hanging around and working so hard, and we were having a little party as well, so it was nice. Here you can see the full overview of all the installations finally built. And yeah, you can see also one mannequin here and 2 installations in the back. So what I am planning to do is I have 36 garments, and each garment will be photographed on this mannequin on the center of the platform. So what I will do is I will photograph the before and after effect on the mannequin here in the center, and then the time-lapse video will capture the installation process with a duration of 4 months. So it would be nice to have the video, but also to see the before and after effect with the mannequin in the center of the platform. But I would recommend everybody to check the blogs from Re-FREAM, the website, because the next 4 months I will post 3 more blogs that showcase this process, and everything will become more clear about what I explained. So these 2 prototypes you actually saw on the videos. This is the weaving prototype and this is the knitting prototype. To be clear, these are test prototypes that I prepared before the installations, and these 2 already show a deformation effect that I'm really content about. I'm happy about it, but a test is a test. So this means that after this test, we actually developed better versions of new materials. So the 36 other materials will have a more dramatic effect in terms of deformation of the fabric. So when we create the test materials in the textile lab, it's really nice to play around and to see what does and what does not work. And these 2 showcase that process. So you see some parts, for example, within here that we said, okay, this part is good, and we will produce 1 garment of this specific part of the garment. So you can see different techniques here that are all tests, and here you can see how it actually already transforms a little bit. So this is also another garment. It's a spare material. So this is what I do with each collection that I produce. I also play around with spare materials, with leftovers, and I created this long dramatic garment out of it. And this is actually the stage where we are in right now. We are playing around, using everything that we have and learning about the test that we did. And now we can go on to the official parts that will be in September until January next year.
Amazing. And amazing with, you know, the organic process and time, right? Time is such an important factor in your project, isn't it?
Yes, yes, time is it's a very important moment, because of course in the autumn and in the winter it rains a lot more than in the summer. So the schedule and all the project steps actually created more space to get the best outcome. and that is to have it in a more seasonal rain period.
So I mean, you're really dealing with very interesting factors that probably you had some of them in mind when you began, and other factors you probably realized as you went along, as this process is so organic. One of the things that I find fascinating about your project is that you're working across. You had to deal with so many different unexpected variables, and so you ended up, as you showed in your video, dealing with different technologies and different people helping you with your project, which for me, I think, sustainability is such an is such an important part of your project and of Hub Valencia. But I guess it must be difficult to mix sustainability with technology. That's to say, how do we deal with a previously developed technology and tweak it so that what you are doing can actually be sustainable, right? That seems to be one of the things that you grappled with during this.
Yes, it is actually challenging because as a designer, you come into this project almost daydreaming, and then you also connect with people and you work together. And in my case, I was really interested in learning all the processes of all the technicians and documenting everything that is possible. So this is really great for me to create a frame where I can play around and work with, and also respect the people that I'm working with, because maybe in this time frame it's not possible to realize the daydream in fast forward, but we can use the current technology and learn from it and create an open space where we can create a dialogue to see what we can do at that moment, but also realize the bigger picture, because maybe Project Marinero, it's a more year project. That's why I also concluded in the end of the project of Re-FREAM that my next project would be actually the Adaptive Archi-Filament, because at this stage we realized that maybe we need to produce or adapt an existing machine to make more high performing yarn and filament qualities that could also be interesting from a commercial point of view. So this is interesting to realize, but as a designer, it's also really important that you realize that the idea that you have in your mind always can change. So it's good to be open and not stuck on what you want to do, because everything could change, and sometimes for the better. And in my case, I feel that this is what happened with my project, that it went from a daydream to a realistic level that is actually a level that I could not imagine reaching 2 years ago when I started this project. So I am very thankful that I could learn from this experience, and I think it's an interesting start for a new chapter, and I really hope that we can keep in contact with each other and learn more from each other in the future.
Totally. I think these kinds of projects are research projects are a blessing. Not everybody has the time or the personality to be able to really take advantage of it. And as we can see, mixing artistry and as you call it, a daydream with technology really is something that it's a long process, and it's an undefined process. That's what it's all about, is that it morphs and changes into something that we probably couldn't even have imagined, right? So it goes from a daydream to a dream.
Yeah,
way.
yeah, that's true. And yeah, what is also nice for me during this project, because the project almost it's like a diary for me. I kept a notebook at my phone that was really interesting for me during the project, that I just write things down that I learned step by step, or things that I experience, or things that I read. And actually this morning before entering, I wrote something down that I would like to share. These are mind waves that constantly change and adapt during the way. But it's something that I want to share.Maybe some people don't agree with it, but it's a personal point of view, I think. So this note, it's called Fashion Solution. So what I wrote down is, I think that designers in general need to actually experience more in real life what is going on in the fashion industry. Also getting the chance in terms of budget and support, etc., to do all this experience in the future. Because when you really see things with your own eyes, you start to feel and live the circumstances that are currently active worldwide. This will help to react in a way that could really contribute to create more sustainable systems. Because it should not really be about, okay, so the fashion industry is the most polluting industry. Here is my product that is sustainable and creates a solution for the pollution. The idea of a designer and their own project and product should be more open to think less about your own legacy and signature. So it should be more about the bigger picture. And this journey starts with working on several interdisciplinary collaborative projects, like for example, Re-FREAM, but even more about collaboration rather than your own project. Or it could start with your own project that you can develop, but later on crystallizing towards international projects where you could be part of a team building on something that is bigger than your own individual idea. This seems very refreshing for me.
Very cool.
Yeah, Jef, I would like to thank you, because what you say, your message is so important now, to have a more holistic approach to the design process. And designers usually are working in a part of the process, and you realize the whole process from imagining a new yarn and imagining a new design process. It's designed by nature, and until the end, until the construction of the material itself and the new use, the new performance. So this holistic approach this actually gives you all the knowledge about that design is part of the process, and you have to know and you have to be conscious about all the parts involved in one process. So it's about more systemic thinking, process thinking, and not only thinking about your, like you say, your individual approach and your individual expression. And this whole process implicates to be open to collaboration, as you showed us in your video. Thank you for the video, because this is what actually Re-FREAM is about co-research and co-creation. And we saw that you really explored the most of the possible possibilities to engage different partners in your process. So congratulations. Looking forward to the future of your project. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you. It's very nice.
Thank you, Isabel. And actually, on that note, we actually have a question from Lorena, who asks Jef, is there any philosophical or transcendental questions that you want to expose with your project?
I think the philosophy behind my project is to step back as a designer and to actually research the visualization of an organic fabric or material that creates interaction with the body. So this is what I am trying to do with my next experiment, to challenge myself and to film the whole process and to see and learn how these new yarns interact within each prototype, so that I can learn how this yarn and filament needs to be adapted or needs to be prototyped towards a better version. Because creating an architectural filament that creates a shape of its own requires actually nanotechnology. So within this stage, I think technology and philosophy comes together in a poetic way.
Definitely. Definitely. I think that's a great way to close our session. I think we've touched on many aspects of this such a complete project in so many ways. Congratulations, Jef. It's really amazing. Really excited to see how you continue, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. It was really nice to work together.
Yeah, amazing. So we'll be in touch for sure. And I don't know if there's any other questions. Looks like not. I think we're good. People are wishing you the best of luck on the chat. So yeah, keep us posted on the rooftop party. And and yeah, hope to see you soon. It's been a pleasure, Jef.
Likewise. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And thanks so much to Jef. And yeah, next up on the Re-FREAM Garden, we'll be talking with Elizabeth Jaillot in about 10 minutes. I can share the Zoom link with you here. Just 1 second, please. So you're welcome to join us for the next Re-FREAM finalist, Elizabeth Jaillot, from 11 to 12. And then from 12 to 1, we'll be talking to Yu Yang Song. So stick around. Here's the link. I just sent it through for the next session. And then anyone, if anybody's interested in applying to the second call of Re-FREAM, I think we put the link up here before, but yes, it's here it is. I'll just put it through again. It's www.re/fream.eu. You can find it up above in the chat, but I will post it for you again here in case anybody wants to see it. 1 second, please. So there it is, refream.eu. Jef, take care, and stay healthy. We'll speak to you soon. Okay.